Welcome back, everyone. Paul Chamberlain, the Air Force guy with Everything RVs podcast. Now, this podcast is brought to you. I bring this to you because I enjoy RVs. I live and breathe this stuff. And my job with this podcast, as well as with my YouTube channel, is to bring you the information that you need so that you can go out and make memories that will last a lifetime. Now, with that being said, today's podcast is being sponsored by Extreme Heaters. Love this company. They're an American-made company right here in Georgia. And it started back in 2004 when he came up with a heater for his boat. And over the last few years, he has expanded this to the RV world. And that's helping RVers that want to go ahead and extend their camping season into the winter and maybe even up in north. This is giving you that ability so you don't have your pipes freezing. Also keep your floor a little bit warmer, the whole 9 yards if you go ahead and skirt it and put this underneath. So check them out. Their link is down below, and they also have a special discount code good until January 31st. What a perfect Christmas gift here for your fellow RVers out there. But without further ado, let's get on to Everything RVs podcast. And today I'm excited because, I get a lot of customers that ask me, Paul, listen, I'm planning a trip. And, what's the best way to go ahead and plan a trip? And, to me, I really had no idea. To me, when I planned a trip, I just looked at where I was going and just went. But, if you're going to be going cross country, all these different things. Today, I have the perfect guest for that from RV Life. And without further ado, let me bring on Patrick here from RV Life. And Patrick, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of background on you, and then we go into how we can simplify their life when they're planning RV trips.
I'll do that. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. And so a little bit of my background was I was an IT professional for 25 years or so, and got into RVing about 10 years ago. And we rented an RV. We were going to try a trip to the Grand Canyon, kind of see how this RVing thing kind of works, And I learned about RV traveling by sticking myself with a 9-hour drive behind the wheel from Flagstaff to Amarillo, because Google said it was going to be 6 hours. And the culmination of that trip really got me thinking, look, there's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be other ways to plan this and figure this stuff out. And so I started some research, and lo and behold, through some digging, and particularly at a particular forum that everybody goes to, which is irv2.com, I found RV Life.
Well, that's awesome. Now, so you don't own RV Life. You're just working for them. Is that right?
I just work for them. That's right. I back when I started almost 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago or so, there were just 13 people in the company, most of them scattered around the country. But here in the DFW area where I live, was the owner and a couple of folks. The company's owned and operated by Andy Rabinowitz. He founded Air Forums and Air Classifieds a couple of decades ago, and has been entrenched in the RV industry on the digital media side for a very long time. We connected through some posts on irv2.com. Turned out we lived in the same area. And with about a year's worth of coercing, I finally agreed to leave my job and come work for him. And it's been a great ride for sure.
Well, that's great. Now, so, I had an experience once. I was delivering a motorhome from Maryland up to Boston, and I just put it on my Waze on my phone, right? And I'm just driving, have my wife follow me, and here I'm taking this turn, and it says no commercial vehicles. I said, okay, I'm not a commercial vehicle.
Yeah.
I come around the corner, and now it's 2 lanes, and I look up ahead that says bridge ahead 11 feet.
Yeah.
So luckily for me, it was a bridge that was rounded, so I knew that the middle wasn't 11 feet. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that the drivers that were in the fast lane weren't too happy that I took up both lanes to get under the bridge. So
Yeah, look, needless to say, the Northeast comprises a nice chunk of our customers, because between those old infrastructure back from the 100 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever, and then the parkways and things where RVers are not allowed. There's you can't just map it out and hope for the best, right?
right, I learned that.
Yeah, yeah. So just I guess to build on what I said earlier. So in my discovery of trying to find a way to travel correctly, right? I discovered a product back then that was called RV Trip Wizard. Now it's part of RV Life Pro. It's kind of all lumped in with our offering. I always akin it to Microsoft Office, right? You have a Word and Excel or PowerPoint and all that.
Sure.
It's the same thing with RV Life Pro. We've got RV Trip Wizard, we've got the mobile app, we've got some other tools and offerings. But I learned a great deal about trip planning and the realities of it. And I felt, as I alluded to, I felt so strongly about the product and the company that I left my job and joined the company.
Right.
And we did a lot of education early on. Back in those days, again, there was just 13 of us or so, and you wore a lot of different hats at that time. But what I've learned over the years here is that RVers, new RVers in particular, or maybe less experienced RVers, they're still stuck in what I call car think, right? They're still dealing with things on car terms with regard to time and terrain and tires, which is a surprising thing that comes up in trip planning, but it does not so much in trip planning, but in RVing overall. And if you look at the questions out on those forums, tires are a big deal, navigation and terrain and all of those things. And terrain can encompass a lot of things, right? It can encompass finding fuel and not only getting into the fuel station, but can I get there when my favorite phrase is, can I fit there when I get there, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So those are all nuances that our product addresses, and that we address kind of as a company on a very broad scale. Trip Wizard is sort of the gold standard, and we have a ton of things built into that tool to help with trip planning.
Okay. Well, so I think you said something in particular, talking about the like the Waze or Google Maps or whatever maps people are using. It gave you one time. So what you're saying is, with your trip, when you set up your trip in your maps, they're adjusting for the time due to the fact that you're in an RV or towing an RV.
Correct. I always say, and we do a couple of trade shows a year. We do a couple of big ones. We do Hershey, we do Tampa, and I've got a team that does smaller rallies and things like that. But I always tell people, or during seminars and whatnot, I always tell people there's two things Google doesn't know about you. It's only two, but there's two things it doesn't know about you. And that is, it doesn't know what you're driving, and it doesn't know how fast you're going.
Okay.
And so when you've got a freeway from A to B that's 75-mile-an-hour freeway, it doesn't factor in the fact that you're only going 62, maybe 65. Most RVers won't go faster than that. And so you're going to arrive wherever those everyday automobile tools tell you. You're going to arrive much later than that. In addition, whereas you and I might hop in the car and drive 6 hours, maybe one stop for the bathroom or something, when you're RVing, you've got fuel stops, and you're typically stopping more than just one time. Probably RVers, since RVers travel with pets, very often you're stopping once or twice for those. You're stopping for fuel far more frequently. And so what Google says is a 6-hour trip really ends up being 8 hours, between stops and traveling slower than anticipated. So within our mapping tool, we actually have a place where you can specify an average speed. And I've learned, we always recommend everybody start out with 55. That doesn't mean you're going 55 on the freeway. It means through the course of the day, your average speed, right, is 55. And I tell people, like, if you got kids and pets, knock it down to 50. If you don't have kids or pets, you could bump it to 60. And then you just find your happy spot. I've learned, I kept arriving, we changed our way of travel a little bit. And I kept arriving at campgrounds like an hour before check-in. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I realized I still had my average speed down to where it was when I was stopping 3 times in a trip. And now we're not stopping, or maybe stopping once. So I bumped it up to 58. But we give you that granularity to set a real overall driving speed. And then the neatest part about it is when you set that, and then you also you also tell our program how far you want to drive or how long you want to drive, right? We've all heard the 330 rule or the 300 rule, the 230 rule. Kind of everybody has their thing about how many miles or hours or time of day you want to get there. So whether you choose hours or whether you choose miles, you tell us how long you're willing to drive. For me, it's always about hours, right? I never want to be on the road more than 6 hours. If I'm lazy daying it a little bit, I may be putting 4 hours in or 5 hours, whatever it is I want. Some people are like, oh, I gotta have 300 miles or I gotta have 200 miles. Doesn't matter. Whatever you choose, right? Then we're going to make a calculation based on the speed you said you anticipate traveling and the distance you want to go. And we're going to create this radius. We've got a round, kind of a circle, looks like a target, which is our as the crow flies radius, but it's not realistic. It might be realistic from here to Albuquerque, right? It's a straight shot. But in other parts of the country, you got twists and turns and whatnot. So we've got an advanced radius that is dead money. So if I set it for 4 hours and I say I'm leaving Fort Worth, Texas, I know on every single road that leads out of Fort Worth where 4 hours at my preferred speed of 58 miles an hour is going to be. So wherever that radius and my route intersect, guess what? That's where I need a campground. And so now within the map, we're showing you all available campgrounds. And to tuck back a little bit on that topic, I talked about Andy starting some sites 20 years ago or so. One of those sites that we have is called RV Life Campgrounds. If you've been doing this a while, you'll remember a site called Campground Reviews. We just renamed it. And previous to that, it was even called RV Park Reviews. And that was kind of an ironic thing as a new generation of our RVers came in, they were saying, well, I don't have an RV. I've got a camper. I've got a travel trailer, right? So they weren't making the connection and say, oh, I don't need a park. I need a campground. Right. So we're like, okay. So we renamed that site, but it's got 20 years of data. It has all campgrounds, regardless of their affiliation, their brand, their location. I tell people if it's not there, it's either because they just opened and didn't tell anybody they opened, or they may have had a rename and maybe it hasn't caught up to us yet or something. But every campground is there. City park, state park, national park, local park, brands, Thousand Trails, you name it, it's there. And so we're sort of neutral. We're sort of the Yelp of campgrounds, right? And so when you show me that, hey, my route's going to intersect in Amarillo, Texas, I'll show you every campground that's in that spot.
Oh, that's a game changer in itself, right there, right?
It absolutely is. And so so now you're seeing, and then obviously within that realm, and we'll just finish that thought, within that realm, you have all bunch of filters and things you can turn on and off, whether it's the price or the rating or the amenities or the hookups. I mean, the list is almost too much granularity, but the reality is you can granularity that thing down. So you pick the campground you want. Like maybe let's say there's 30 campgrounds there and you narrow it down to 12 after you use your filtering. Well, now we're going to let you click on those and you're going to see pictures, you're going to see reviews, you're going to see ratings, you're going to see tips, you're going to see all that data that's back on RV Life Campgrounds. We funneled it up into TripWizard, so you never have to leave the tool to learn and find the campground you want. And for some of those campgrounds that are what we call featured campgrounds, they've paid a few bucks to be able to book right from there. You can click on book now. Otherwise, we got a link to their website. We've got their phone number, whatever your choice, preferred choice of communication is. And so if I pick my favorite campground in an Amarillo area, which is usually Oasis, it's windy as heck, but it's very easy in and out from my big rig. I've now picked a campground I want based on my criteria. I've driven the distance I want, the speed I want, and the route I want. And if we talk about the routing real quick, we're going to pick the fastest, most obvious route that's RV safe for you based on criteria you've given us: RV height, weight, length, and your propane status, right? We talked about the Northeast. Some of those tunnels don't let you have propane, or they don't have it turned on, or even if it's turned off, they won't let you. There's a variety of tunnels. You can specify that in your criteria. And in fact, we've got most RVs listed. So you just pick the RV, and it's going to give you an RV safe route based on that height and the weight and the length and all of those things. And so now then I can coerce that route a little bit if I want to avoid something, or I want to stop off at Grandma Sue's along the way or whatever. I can add that waypoint in there, or maybe before I get to Amarillo, I'm going to get fuel, and fuel is a whole nother topic. But I've built this first leg of my journey all based on criteria that I want, that I specify, and I know that I'm really going to get there when it says I'm going to get there. I'm not going to show up at 7 o'clock after the office is closed and all of that stuff because I didn't plan, or I use Google or something else.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so, yeah, because I know in traveling, I know I've read about a couple of times, I forget what road it is out west there, that the total length that can accommodate the curves in the road is 53 feet. So that's critical.
And there are, and you can put, obviously you can put your length in, and we tell people, look, you can put your RV length, your truck length. We always generally tell people just put the combined length,
right,
because it keeps you pretty safe. I'm a motorhome owner and I tow a Jeep. So in reality, other than the combined weight, it's just another vehicle following me really closely. Most cases, for me as a motorhome owner, if I do a U-turn, it's no different than if I have my Jeep attached, right? But some vehicles it is. And those are some of the criteria. Those are some of the things you have to do. When in doubt, especially if you're new, just put the combined length of both vehicles and you'll be safer.
Well, now, do you have something in your software to help people out with that? And here's the reason why I asked that. Because I know with Lance trailers, they confuse people because they give them an interior length and an overall length. And when you ask people, or when I see things posted on Facebook, people are talking about lengths. People always equate the length of their camper to the model number of their camper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. So a 32 LX means I got a 32-foot camper, and it's really 36 feet, right? No, when we go through that picking process, the length we provide is that final external length provided by the manufacturer.
So you're actually having them pick the particular camper.
Yeah. We've used to be you had to do it manually, but we've got that now where virtually every RV made is in there. And if not, there's a place for you to plug in your own values if you want to.
Well, I'll tell you what, that makes a big difference, because I know, I have a 26 model number that's 32 foot 9 inches. But
right.
They're all over the place depending on the manufacturer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We alluded it. I alluded it to a moment ago, but when we talk about fuel, so if we kind of look at our trip from 30,000 feet, I've got a stop from A to B at a campground I chose, a route I chose during the time I chose. Now within that space, of course, it's a click of the button to show rest areas. I can add a rest area. I can add restaurants. I can put in GPS coordinates. I can put in an address. I can add anything to that trip that I want. Some of the stuff's built in, of course, fuel stations, Walmart, Cabela's. We're going to have Harvest Host in there really soon. We're going, all these things you can add to your trip and build your route. But one of the big factors there is fuel. Now, back when we talked about you providing us a variety of information, another one of those pieces is your fuel. And so we're going to let you tell us what your fuel capacity is, and then as well as how many gallons you want to keep in reserve, right? So if you're pulling an RV, most folks will keep 3, 4, 5 gallons, maybe, whatever, as a little bit of reserve, just they don't want to get to zero. If you're a motorhome owner that has an onboard Jenny, of course, you know you're going to leave a quarter of a tank, and then you're going to put in your miles per gallon. And most of the time it's 8, but of course for now with Sprinter vans and the whole just better fuel mileage, it can run anywhere from that 6 or 7 miles to the gallon for a 45 footer pulling a truck or a boat or something, up to 20 miles or more to the gallon if you've got a little B van or something. Doesn't matter to us. You put in your miles per gallon. And so we just do a little math and we take your, let's say you've got, in my case, I've got a 100-gallon fuel tank, but I leave 30 in reserve for the generator and whatnot, emergencies and whatnot. And so that leaves me 70 usable gallons times that 8 miles to the gallon. That's every 560 miles on this trip. It's going to show me a triangle, like an orange triangle, that says exactly where I need to get fuel.
Right. Okay.
And so, yeah, and of course, it doesn't matter what rig you have or what your miles per gallon are or how far it is. Maybe it's 100 miles. It doesn't matter. We're going to show you an orange triangle there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on my map and I'm going to turn on fuel stations. And I'm going to look for fuel stations that I prefer right around as close to that warning as I can. And I'm going to add that fuel station to my trip. And then I'm going to click in there and do a little virtual top off. And so I'm basically saying at this exact spot, whether it's 5 miles before, after, right on, wherever my warning is, I'm going to fill my tank. And of course, it knows how much it's used, so it knows how much is going in. So it then recalculates every fuel stop after that. So as you're building out this trip, you can know in advance where you're going to get fuel, which is really important. We've used the phrase RVers, newer RVers, or maybe again inexperienced RVers, enjoy their journey a half a tank at a time. For that, from full to 1/2, it's a glorious drive through beautiful scenery. The minute these folks get to half a tank, it doesn't matter what they're driving through. They don't even care. Where can I find fuel? Where am I going to go? And it's this little exercise of pulling off, finding a station. Can we fit there? Can we get in there? Nope. Get back on the freeway or get back on the road, and we'll try again later. The diesel folks have a little bit easier time because they know any truck stop they can go through the diesel lane. But right. Smaller vehicles or folks that might be a little bit more intimidated by that, or folks, obviously they're gasoline, they don't enjoy that part until they've topped off that fuel again. And all of that is completely unnecessary. If you'll use a tool like RV Trip Wizard and you plan your fuel stops, you'll go in, you can zoom into satellite view, get a nice lay of the land, see what the egress and how things look. Go down to street view. You can actually see the awnings and see the placement of the pumps, and you can get a gauge how tall they are. Sometimes you can even read the lettering, and you can look at it and go, nope, I can't go. We're not going to fit in that one. Let's pick a different station. And when you find one you're comfortable with, then we go back to, like we said, we add it to the trip. We hit the virtual top off button, and now it recalculates the entire route. And now you know where your next fuel stop is. My general MO is to tell people, plan and confirm all your campgrounds first, because that's sort of a non-negotiable. Then do your rest stops, and or usually I'll tell them do fuel next, right? Because that's the next non-negotiable. And you don't want to do that before you've got your campground solidified, in case you have to run 10 miles up and down a particular direction to get to the campground. But once you've got your fuel stops in, those are sort of the two firm stops you have to make. Now you can trickle in rest stops, Walmarts, lunch, scenic overlooks, whatever it is you want to do, interspersed in those other places. Obviously, folks with fifth wheels and travel trailers, they can always fuel up at the campground, or if they're staying somewhere for a few days, they might do some running around and fill up at the campground, but that shouldn't negate planning ahead.
Sure.
And I even tell folks, look, if you happen to be running around while you're at a stay and an opportunity to fill up comes up, go for it, right?
Sure.
Just when you hit the road again, just go ahead and stop at your planned stop and top off. Maybe it's 5 gallons, maybe it's 10, but it puts you back on track to something you've already planned and carefully vetted. And then when it comes to that vetting, we've talked about satellite view, street view. We've got an elevation chart, a grade chart. So when I see this stretch that says, oh, that's a 7, 8, 9, 10% grade, I can go inspect it and see, oh, well, yeah, that's a 7% grade in Colorado. Oh my God, or Utah or whatever. Well, it's I-70. It's not a big problem, right?
Right.
But when you're going on roads and places you've never been, you can't just drive a 40-foot living room down the road and hope it all works out. You
Hmm.
got to plan ahead.
Now, question for you. So, I was showing here your trip planner
Right.
here on RV Life. Is there a charge for this?
Yes, RV Life Pro, which is the trip planner, the mobile navigation, which is through your phone. It's both Apple and Android, and it's CarPlay and Android Auto compatible. Cost $65 a year.
Okay.
So for the price of one night's good night's camping, you've got those tools available at your disposal for the entire year. It's very, very reasonable, and it's just indispensable. And we'd love to say we're the only product you ever need, and maybe that's true, but we're RVers. We know the truth. We're going to use a lot of tools.
Sure.
And for $65, to be sure for an entire year that every trip I have can be vetted carefully, you can't pass that up. And
Right.
most your popular YouTubers will have a 25% discount that first year. You can knock that down a little bit, and and then from then on, the nice part is you're locked in at whatever price you sign up for, even if and when that price goes up down the road.
Yeah. So I could see, you have RV trip planning, RV safe routing, campgrounds and places, learn about RV Life Masterclass. What is RV Life Masterclass?
Yeah, so when you Masterclass is when you sign up, you get an email that tells you how to log into Masterclass, and and I think if you go hit get started there and see what it does, but it basically is some special video tutorials, and this is unlike YouTube or something where you have ads and everybody's kind of trying to pitch their products and whatnot. Masterclass is something we give you, like I think it's 6 or 8 basic courses about RVing, and it might be learning how to run a business on the road, and just a variety of educational resources that we have sort of curated for our members. The most recent one is a really excellent beginning RV course that was put together by Tom Kinnemore from enjoythejourney.life.
Okay.
And he did an excellent job of putting this together. Small video snippets with helpful PDFs and other stuff with it. A really good piece of work. There you go, a guide to beginners RVing. So Buyer's Boot Camp, Boondocking 101. I think these are the 6 that you get for free. Like I said, we send you a little email that tells you how to get those without having to pay for those. So it's a great little resource. As you can never have too many good resources. And then there's some additional products there or classes you can take that cost something, whatever partner is charging for that.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you that. I mean, that's a lot of great information there. So, is there anything else that you would like to tell the audience
Well,
about RV Life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to touch on the navigation piece real quick, we've got a lot of folks that don't plan trips. They just want to wing it. And that's not for me. but there's a whole lot of folks that are. And our mobile navigation app does have that same RV safe directions in it. We've now just added traffic avoidance. So there's a little bit of a warning if there's a delay. So that is a really big deal. You know, with when you're dealing with RV safe routing, you can't just say, hey, there's a traffic jam. Let me route you around the corner behind this school over here, right? You
Right.
can't do that stuff. So we've got some mechanisms in there to help with traffic avoidance. They obviously, for those that are pulling your Apple CarPlay and your Android Auto, the stuff's right on your dashboard. There's no annual map fee or anything that has to be updated. You just have your regular subscription fee. But aside from that, RV Life has several popular RV forums. You know, probably the most popular forum out there is irv2.com. And it's just like it sounds, irv2.com. And I tell people, look, there's 100% chance if you Google something about RVing, you're going to end up on our forum. It cannot be helped. There's decades worth of great data there.
Sure.
And we have some sub forums, some branded forums, Forest River and Montana Owners and Jayco and a variety of other forums like that. And then we've got 7, we kind of fall into the thing of calling them blogs, which is great. But for the newer RVer, perhaps, blogging is maybe associated with someone's personal journey, whereas these are digital magazines with
Right.
tons of great RVing authors that are real RVers that put out content, and we put out about a million emails a week, a million newsletters, right, that people have subscribed to. These are newsletter emails that share this content and explain RVing at all different levels, talk about new products. We've got just a plethora of information going through the blogs. We've got 2 podcasts, the RV Life podcast and the RV Entrepreneur podcast.
Right.
And
okay.
we've got a YouTube show. The Camper Report Show is a YouTube show by 2 industry veterans, Bob Zagami and John DiPietro. Those guys do a great job talking about what's happening in the RV industry every week. So we had a lot going on.
No doubt. Yeah, I've met Bob as well. Good
Yeah.
guy up there in New England there. So
He absolutely is.
So is that about, did we cover everything that you wanted to cover here today? Because we're all about giving out the information here.
Yeah, I think we have. I think the thing that I see the most when I do the shows, right, when it's face to face, I see 2 different sort of schools, right? When we do the small shows, and we don't do many small shows really for this very reason, because you get new RVers coming
Right.
into the hobby. They don't know what they don't know, right? And so they see us and they say, software? Why would I need software? I'll just use my phone. And then we see them a year later at a bigger show or a rally, and they're like, oh my God, I wish I would have found you earlier, because they've gone through the headache and the pain of getting down a dead end road, or pulling over when a bridge was too short, or any number of things, right, that they could have avoided. Going up a gigantic hill they didn't know was a steep hill. So, and then of course we see the folks from the rallies, which are already seasoned RVers, and now they're like, hey, and now they're looking for those expert tips, those deep dive, hey, how can I do this? How can I do that? Or could you guys add this? Could you add that? And
Right.
our goal is to try to get people to learn and see and use and experience the product sooner rather than later. A lot of people have already gone through the headaches you're going to go through. Learn from their mistakes, and you can't just grab Google or Waze and plan a trip. Now, look, if you go to one campground every other weekend all summer, and you never, ever, ever go anywhere else, and you've made that trip successfully, you're probably fine. But if you ever want to go anywhere different, which most RVers will, there's no substitute for the proper tool to do the job.
Yep, no doubt. Well, yeah, especially the longer trips, right? Getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, if you go anywhere you've never been or you're not sure of, I mean, how are you going to know what's a safe route? You don't have any way, even just something as simple as finding campgrounds, right? Forget all the RV safe and all the directions and all the trip planning. Just finding proper campgrounds at destinations you're going to be at the time you're going to be there
Right.
is worth its weight in gold. You can't sit here at home and say campgrounds in Amarillo and it shows you what is Google going to show you? The top 3 or 5 most popular after the 3 or 5 ads, right?
Right.
But there's 30 campgrounds there and you don't know which one's right for you without a tool to help you see those.
Right.
I see it all the time. Hey, we're going to Mount Rushmore on Facebook. What's a good campground? And you got 3 or 4 people. I say that backwards. 30 or 40 people offering the same 5 campgrounds, and then about 10 people that tell you why those campgrounds aren't any good. But
Right.
there's like 60 campgrounds within a 20-mile radius of that area, and you don't know about any of them because you're not looking in the right place.
Right.
Those are the things that frustrate me the most, is like, why are you not using a tool that's so inexpensive and so simple to show you what's really there versus,
Sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come on here and give us the information, because I tell you, this will definitely make life a lot easier for those people that are looking to do, some extensive travel, especially.
Yeah, and don't take my word for it. Don't spend money you don't want to spend. Go to YouTube, find the RV Life YouTube channel. Try to find the official one, and watch some of the videos. Watch some of the product training videos that we've got out there. There's a great little video. It's a little bit older, maybe 2 years old now, but it's called "Creating Your First Trip" with RV Trip Wizard. Something like that. It's 12 minutes. And I tell people, watch that video. If that video makes you go, oh, wow, right? Go buy the product. You get a 7-day trial. You can't hurt to give it a shot. But if you watch that video and go, oh, no, that's way over my head, it's too complicated, then maybe don't do it right away. Take your time, watch some videos. Sometimes people don't discover what they need until they experience the various pain points themselves. So even if you're not willing now, keep your mind open to, all right, I've traveled 6 months and I've learned the pain points. I'm willing to give it a shot. Don't rule anything out.
No doubt. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll link that link for the video down below this on the streaming services as well as on YouTube. So just check below the video. Absolutely. All right. Hey, well, listen, Patrick, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and coming on here and sharing this great information. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. And if you ever need anything, just holler.
Absolutely. Take care.
Great. Thank you.